say hello to our NFL panel. DraftKings contributors Geoff Ulrich, Garion, Thorne, and Julian Edlow. Guys, this is NFL Best Bets. We're going to look at some interesting team-specific future bets for the 2021 NFL season. So let's do it. Continuing our look at some team specials available on the DK Sportsbook, we're going to take a look at the Baltimore Ravens. So Baltimore finished second in the AFC North last season, one game behind the Steelers. But if you're confident on the Ravens doing better in the division this season, you can get them to go 6-0 in the AFC North at plus 1,000 odds. Do you think that's a possibility, Geoff?
I mean, anything is a possibility. I mean, this team went 4-2 in the division last year. You know, obviously they beat Cleveland twice, but they also lost to the Steelers twice. They manhandled the Bengals. Look, I mean, when it comes down to it, I'm just not big on the Ravens this year. And I think asking them to go 6-0 in one of the most competitive divisions in the NFL, which legitimately has two teams that could be better than them, is a fool's errand. So I get it. It's plus 1,000. I'm not interested in this at all. I do think that the Baltimore Ravens also are a team that you should be fading. This is a team whose quarterback is out with COVID again. Their big ad over the offseason was Sammy Watkins to solidify their wide receiver core. I'm sorry, I do not see this passing offense being any good. If teams continue to figure out Lamar Jackson just a little bit more in the run game, I think Baltimore struggles this year. And we haven't even talked about their D, which is getting a little bit up there in age. So I'm not in on the Ravens. I think the better bet is to go look at their season win total and take the under. It's at 11 wins. That's a lot for this team in a competitive division. Like I said, I'm not really in on the Ravens at all. So bet their season under total in the win column and ignore this bet.
Garion, you look like you agree.
I mean, it's not hard to poke holes in a 10-1 bet, but I will say that the funny thing with the perfect division record bets is that the way the NFL sets up their schedule is you always have a divisional game in the final week of the regular season. And let's say, hypothetically, the Ravens have gone 5-0 in the AFC North heading into Week 18's matchup with the Pittsburgh Steelers. There's a very good chance that if they've been that good, they probably don't have to play their starters in that Week 18 game. So there's so many variables here. And I think the Ravens in particular, as Geoff pointed out, are a team where the variables are already kind of scary because Lamar Jackson has now had COVID twice. And I'm not saying it necessarily is something that's going to crop up again, but, you know, it's 2021. There's a lot of things that could go wrong for an NFL team. And the way the Ravens schedule sets up is really unique. 5 of their 6 divisional games don't take place until week 12. So essentially, by taking this bet, you're betting on 5 games that are happening November 28th or later. That's just a really, really long time down the road, and it's not something I'm looking to do.
All right, Julian, what do you think? You can get the Ravens to go 6-0 in the AFC North at plus 1,000 odds. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, it's a great last point by Garion because it shows that we're kind of less sure what we're betting on in terms of what this, you know, Lamar Jackson could have a season-ending injury in week 10, and you don't have him for, 5 of these games then based on the schedule? Like, that's not something you want to do to yourself. This is not the division to be betting a team to go undefeated in. It's a competitive division. And like Geoff said, the Ravens are trending in the wrong direction. They got smoked by the Bills in the postseason, practically shut out to end their season. They didn't add much in the offseason. Sammy Watkins is supposed to help the offense. Nothing really done to the defense. They're not going to go 6-0 in this division. If I'm betting anything, given how competitive it is, like I would maybe want to bet the Bengals to go 0-6 in the division. There's not many ways to really look at it. If you want to play on Baltimore, I do like the Ravens week 1 in Las Vegas against the Raiders. Not all that high on their season outlook, like Geoff said, but Baltimore's 22-11-1 against the spread on the road since 2017. They've covered 15 of those 22 by double digits. Good spot for the Ravens to start the year in Las Vegas. I don't know about the rest of the way.
All right, up next, the 49ers, where Trey Lance has been impressing in camp, but despite that, Jimmy G will likely be under center to start the season, at least for the start. One team special for the 49ers focuses on their pass catchers, looks for Deebo Samuel and George Kittle to combine for over 1,999.5 regular season receiving yards at minus 110 odds. Garion, do you like that combo?
I do. I mean, when you take these bets, you're always really gambling on health more than you are statistics. So I mean, who really knows? But if these guys are able to play, let's say even 15 or 16 games each, it's going to be pretty hard for them not to get to that number, even with San Francisco likely projecting as a very run-heavy offense, especially if they get the rookie quarterback in there at some point. Just seeing what Kyle Shanahan can do with his mobility will be very interesting. But if you look at just George Kittle, you go back to the start of 2018, this is someone averaging 80.7 receiving yards per game. So if he's able to stay healthy all season and play 17 contests, that's already almost 1,400 yards just by himself. So, again, this is a bet about health, which is always hard to project. But I do think this number is relatively low, considering the talent level of specifically Kittle.
Julian, how do you feel about it?
So I don't love it, and it's nothing necessarily against the players. But here's the thing: like I'm shy to take any player's season total over. Because if they get injured, it is suddenly derailed. You generally need to play in all of, or like Garion said, 16, 15, at least 14 games if you're going to be cashing overs for a player. And now you are taking a double risk because essentially both of those players are going to have to be healthy unless Deebo Samuel gets 500 yards and gets hurt and Kittle just has a massive 1,500-yard season and gets you there. It's a big ask. So just risking double injury, if either one of those guys now gets hurt and the other stays healthy and has a great season, you still probably don't get there. I can't bring myself to do it, but you did mention Trey Lance, and I just want to mention because he's still plus 300 on DK Sportsbook to get the week 1 start. We're hearing some really, really good things out of 49ers camp about him. I think that is an interesting way to back the Niners and cash a 3-1 bet, right off the bat in week 1. It has a real chance.
All right, Geoff, how do you feel about this Deebo Samuel, George Kittle combining prop? How do we feel?
I mean, I like this one a lot more than I like the Ravens one for sure. But I would still venture to say that, again, these guys alluded to the injury issue. Why bet on 2 players staying healthy, especially 2 guys who have had injury issues the last 2 years, then just take one? I mean, I'm very big on Deebo Samuel. It's a player who averaged over 14 yards per reception in year 1. He's great after the catch. He's going to catch a ton of swing passes in Kyle Shanahan's offense. If he stays healthy for even 15 games, he probably smashes his over prop just on his own, which is 895 yards on the DraftKings Sportsbook. Take the over there. Then you're only betting on 1 player rather than having to rely on the health of 2 players. If Kittle goes down early, or even if Deebo goes down early, you're done on this prop. So all things considered, I like these 2 players, like these guys alluded to. Love the 49ers offense, but I think I would rather just go to Deebo. I think his total is a little bit too low. I think it's actually quite too low because you're getting that lower sentiment based off his injury-plagued season last year. So just go to Deebo, take the over there.
All right, guys, the LA Rams now have Matt Stafford playing quarterback, and there are a couple of team specials around him, including Matt Stafford over 29.5 regular season passing touchdowns and Cooper Kupp over 1,099.5 regular season receiving yards. The odds for this one are sitting at plus 330. Could you see both of these things happening in LA this season, Julian?
Yeah, this is my favorite combo so far, I would say. I do like, and I said I don't love overs, but I do like as an individual bet Matt Stafford over 29.5 touchdowns. 17 games, going to LA where he has a much better O-line than he did in Detroit. He has good pass catchers, one of them here in this combo with Cooper Kupp. And you have the unfortunate season-ending injury to Cam Akers, which while they'll have other running backs step up, maybe that puts a little more pressure on the passing game here. So Stafford over 29.5 passing touchdowns does interest me a lot. So if you want to kind of make it a combo deal here, the Cooper Kupp receiving yards, although it doesn't tie in with the touchdown, there is some type of correlation here of the Rams having a good passing game. So I prefer just going Stafford with the passing touchdowns. But yeah, I think there is something to this combo.
Geoff, you look like you are agreeing.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, Julian, Julian laid out the player reasons why we should like this. I mean, the Cam Akers news, Matt Stafford and Sean McVay's offense. Jared Goff threw 32 touchdowns, back in 2017. Now they drifted off that the last couple of years, but they don't have a dominant running back. Like, there's no Cam Akers, no Todd Gurley now. I think there's a very good shot that a more efficient quarterback is going to hit 30 touchdowns again in this offense. And I think the biggest thing for me, again, Julian's already kind of laid out most of this. The biggest thing for me is the price. You're getting plus 330 here. I would have much thought like with this prop, probably with two players, assuming they're healthy, maybe around the plus 200 range. So I think the odds we're getting here makes this one probably my favorite one of the specials so far to take the over on. Yeah.
Garion, is this your favorite one of the specials? These guys seem to like it.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, with the obvious caveat, again, that you're trusting two players to stay healthy for the entire season. But one of those guys is a quarterback, and that would be probably the position that stays or tends to stay the healthiest throughout the entirety of the regular season. Yeah, I mean, look, we've seen what Sean McVay can do when the Rams decide to be a pass-oriented offense. In 2019, Jared Goff led the NFL in pass attempts, and considering all they gave up to get Matt Stafford in town, considering Cam Akers is no longer healthy, I could very much see this being an offense that maybe sits around like a 63, 64% pass ratio for the season. And that's incredibly dangerous considering that really passing statistics are just up across the league anyway. Not even factoring in that we're adding a game this season. If you look at 2020, 10 quarterbacks threw for at least 30 touchdowns last season, and 16 had at least 26 touchdown passes, which kind of puts them in a range to get to 30 when you start adding that extra start. Stafford was actually included with a Lions team that sort of just ran out of receivers at one point in 2020. So I definitely think Stafford finishes this. It's really just a matter of cups. So like Jules was saying, maybe you kind of just take the Stafford one by itself, but at plus 330, this is really nice value.